Did you know that up to half of our prison population is made up of drug-related crimes? Well, I come from a long line of substance abuse in my family, so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. The similarities between the family members that have sustained sobriety have been that they've went through rehabilitation treatment, and that's after some of them going to jail. They they didn't learn about learn and understand learn to understand their addiction. Um, so incarceration is for individuals that are a danger to the public, not that are struggling with addiction and substance abuse. And through rehabilitation, um, there is a much larger chance of sustained recovery. So these people will continue to practice this treatment after they are released or graduate the program. And then a statistic to give you an idea of our criminal justice system right now. A study by the U.S. Department of Justice shows that 58% of state prisoners and 63% of jail inmates meet the criteria for drug dependence and substance abuse. And around half of those inmates are clinically addicted, so they've been diagnosed by a psychiatrist or a substance abuse doctor. And so that gives you an idea of the amount of people flowing through that are struggling with this mental illness. And then moving on to my next point, if the government only granted nonviolent offenders rehabilitation to 40% of the inmates in the prison population in the United States, we would save $12.9 billion, which also our government is estimated to be in $21 trillion of debt net by next year, at the end of next year, and 47 plus billion dollars were actually used in the war against drugs. So that gives you kind of an idea of how well the government has spent our money. So this is why rehabilitation would not only improve the lives of many people, but also improve our economy. And so this brings me to my next point, and this is a lot more important than the amount of money that we would be saving. The average success rate for drug rehabilitation, inpatient and residential treatment is estimated that over 20% of patients sustain sobriety after 5 years. And the National Institute on Drug Abuse estimates that 95% of drug abusers return to incarceration. So they're leaving the door only to walk back in the same door. They're not receiving treatment in these jails, and they aren't given any tools in order to fight this addiction. And then also, both of these methods allow for supervised withdrawal, which has actually been an issue for as long as prisons have been around, because they're not weaned off while in jail. They're not given the treatment. They're treated more like animals rather than human beings. And there have been many reported deaths because of withdrawals, like heroin, alcohol. You can't quit cold turkey or you will end up dying. And so 75% of people arrested remain out of custody for 2 years after successfully graduating from a rehabilitation program. So addicts need rehabilitation because they don't have a conscience. They don't have any hope, and they're also physically dependent on this. So they're kind of stuck in a hole that they can't dig themselves out of, or so they think. But this issue is much bigger than themselves. But on to my next point, the last step of the 12-step programs is to actually continue with the program and share your journey with others, and to make an impact on them. And so unlike incarceration, the structure doesn't cease after you leave the jail walls. What do you learn inside of a prison? that you made a mistake, it was wrong, and this is what you deserve. And I don't think that's according to the punishment. These people should be helped instead of hurt. Um, and then my grandfather actually has partaken in AA, and he graduated 10 years ago. It was a long road, but he continues to this day, and I see the impact that it has on him. And it's because AA members, there's also NA, which is Narcotics Anonymous, in comparison to Alcoholics Anonymous, but NA, any kind of rehabilitation program gives the addicts structure, accountability, and also gives them a support group, somewhere to someone to lean on, and be able to tell them that there's a way out. There's an end to this road, and there's another path. And addicts most of the time feel alone. They don't think that anyone understands what they're going through. Especially family support is great, but it's not it's not useful whenever they haven't experienced what you're going through at that specific time. So you need other addicts around, recovering addicts. Not you don't want partaking addicts or current addicts. Well, you do, because I mean, if you are a recovering addict, because you want to make an impact on them. But this is more so about having a support group and being held accountable, and also just getting that chance to be able to talk to them and understand your addiction. Because I know that the biggest part of recovering for my grandfather has been understanding that to have a healthy fear of his addiction, that helps him deal with it. And so rehabilitation needs three things. It grants three things to recovering addicts, and that is accountability, structure, and support. So these help recovering addicts have a successful abstinence from substances. So the rehabilitation of nonviolent offenders have a much higher success rate than incarceration, which lowers the chance to reoffend. And this would also save the government upwards of $40 billion, which would be phenomenal for the economy. But not only, rehabilitation would save the lives of many. Thank you.